Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. The big news, of course, is Nigeria's Eurobond issuance. $2.2 billion is what Nigeria was able to raise. Returning to the Eurobond markets, I think, for the first time since March 2022. Got some data there from Nairametrics. It was oversubscribed to the tune of about $9 billion. So that was, you're looking for $2 billion, you get $9 billion in demand. It's a testament to the investor appetite for Nigeria's debt. However, there are, of course, been discussions around the cost of this debt. So you got a 700 million tranche, about 6.5 years at 9.625. So that's a little on the high end. And then you got a 1.5 billion tranche, 10-year bond, that at a 10.37. Now, the structure is issued under the S144A structure, which means that it's available to U.S. and international investors. I think it's $200,000 in installments, and then you get an extra $1,000 beyond that. So this is what they're looking for. If you look at the notable Africa Eurobond issuances for 2024, just for the purpose of comparison, couldn't get everybody. I think Kenya was also there, South Africa, but looking at Benin Republic and also looking at the Ivory Coast, back in January, I think they were looking, Benin Republic was looking for about $750 million. They got $5 billion in demand. So they were oversubscribed by about 6-7 times. But you note that they got their bond was priced at 8.37. Ivory Coast had two tranches. There was 2.2 billion in total. One was a 9-year. I think the other was a 13, 6.3 and 6.85. And then you've got Nigeria, of course, with this bond issuance at 9 and 10%. So look, what's been asked now is that, listen, and we brought this up before. Remember, we were in Washington, D.C. We asked the IMF, has Nigeria approached you for assistance? IMF said, no, Nigeria has not approached us for any assistance, but we are ready to assist Nigeria. What the conversation now is that, listen, you have already undertaken, if you are going to ask for money from the IMF, you would be asked to undertake the reforms that you've already undertaken. So why not get a multi-billion-dollar facility from the IMF at much lower rates? Egypt got what, 12 billion not too long ago. So, but look, by and large, this is supposed to support Nigeria's 2024 budget. You know that there are lots more spending that needs to be done. You know that there's a lot of issues with respect to our rising debt. But I mean, look, investors, they snapped it up. So the question now, of course, is about, okay, beyond debt, what about your assets? We've talked a lot about assets that Nigeria has, valued in the trillions. Is it possible that you could have sold some of those assets, a stake in those assets, for value? Let's take Egypt as an example. We covered Egypt a lot last year. I think it was September of 2023, where Egypt got a major boost from the United Arab Emirates. The Egypt Eastern Company, they sold, I think it was a 30% stake there for about $600 and something million. Egypt had been looking to raise $2 billion in asset sales. So that's the same $2 billion that Ivory Coast raised in the debt markets. It's the same $2 billion that Nigeria just raised successfully from the Eurobond. So, you know, I mean, that is your composition of finance, equity versus debt. I bring up Taiwo Oyedele again. Again, that conversation he had with the chief financial officers and the tax consultants on, again, the tax reforms that are making all the headlines. He talked about so much. There's only so much. But let me pick up what he said on Nigeria's assets. He estimates, according to their numbers, we're sitting on 100 trillion worth of assets. Take a listen.
In addition to the tax leg, I told you that the revenue transformation has 4 sub-components. One is tax. The second one is government assets. I was speaking to someone who heads a government agency yesterday, and the person told me, let me just even say it was somebody in the sports ministry. There's no ministry anymore now, it's commission. When the guy told me the kind of asset they have over there, even me, I was surprised. The level of assets, from stadia to sports centers to something facility to games village, and these things are not generating revenue. So government assets, we think it will be in the region of 100 trillion naira. We even need to know what the assets are and where they are, and then what do we do with them? The ones we need to sell, because private sector can manage them better, we should sell them. The ones that government needs to manage, let's manage and sweat them and get like double-digit returns annually. From government assets alone, we can easily generate more than we're generating today from companies' income tax, personal income tax, and VAT combined.
In case you're wondering, 100 trillion at 1,645 gives you $60 billion, right? Again, this is just, I guess, back of the envelope math that he's done at the committee. Look, we're talking about assets now. So from assets, I'm going to move to agriculture. Of course, we had a conversation. There's a table and a chart we're going to give you now for agri outputs, where we were talking to the Commissioner for Finance for Ekiti State, Akintunde Oyedele. I asked him about his outlook on Nigeria's economy and Ekiti State. For him, again, going back to land and assets, he says his elephant in the room is agriculture. And if you look at, before we get to his clip, if you look at the table, if you look at the Q3, we updated this table to include the Q3 agriculture performance. Look at it, 1.14% for agriculture. That's in Q3 of this year. You see fisheries contracting by 1.9. I think it's only forestry that did about 2%. The agricultural sector is underperforming. There should be a chart, hopefully. If you see a chart, you can see livestock in red dropping well below in the negative region. That has been contracting. So, there's a lot of value to be unlocked in the agricultural sector, but unfortunately, it is just not performing. So I bring up those numbers just to back up what the Honorable Commissioner for Finance of Ekiti State said. Here's what part of our conversation.
Of course, ultimately, the point with growth is that no one eats growth, right? People want jobs, people want affordability, people want to boost productivity. And I think for me, the elephant in the room is, how does agri do? Right? Agri now is growing at circa 1%, right? I think that is a disaster, right? There's nowhere where your agri sector grows at 1% where you don't have massive food inflation, right? So that's, I think, for me, if there's one problem, I think that both national and sub-national governments have to tackle, it will be agriculture. In Ekiti, for example, we are very keen on solving that problem. A few days ago, we released, I was a member of the Committee on Security, and we've now started implementing that report. And it starts with land clearing, just ensuring that there's more land banks available for agriculture, helping farmers get better inputs, building storage facilities to ensure that we minimize post-harvest losses. And we've also set up a trading and distribution company, right, to buy excess produce from farmers during the harvest season. So it's a bunch of things that we are doing as a state.
So please follow my theme here. You're raising debts, you're trying to raise money, you're sitting on billions of dollars of assets, you have agricultural output that needs to improve. There's also real estate. We spoke with Ayo Ibaru, who is the CEO of North Core Real Estate. Listen to what he said about this is, I don't know, the umpteenth time I'm bringing this up, the Land Use Act and how it's impeding investment.
But then there's a much bigger problem. It's the Land Use Act 1978. Honestly, if the Senate President really wants to help us, I think it's something that they need to look at, because it's arguably the one stumbling block that needs to be dealt with. And what does that do? Of course, it puts all power, control of land and property in the hands of the state governor. And then, of course, he can use that for overwhelming public good. But the problem is it has led to bureaucracy over the years, and it's rather inefficient. So it slows things down. You can't get funding in time. You can't plan properly.
So finally, just to round off, the value of real estate. I'm going to use some pop culture for you. I don't know how many of you saw The Founder from 2016, which was the drama documentary on McDonald's and how, I think his name was Roy Corrick, how McDonald's ended up becoming the multi-billion-dollar company that it was. There was a clip that talks about, it's not about hamburgers, it was about real estate and being able to unlock value in real estate. So take a look at this clip from The Founder, and that's where we end today.
You're not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business. You don't build an empire off a 1.4% cut of a 15-cent hamburger. You build it by owning the land upon which that burger is cooked. What you ought to be doing is buying up plots of land, then turning around and leasing said plots to franchisees who, as a condition of their deal, should be permitted to lease from you and you alone. This will provide you with two things. One, A steady, upfront revenue stream. Money flows in before the first stake is in the ground. 2, greater capital for expansion, which in turn fuels further land acquisition, which in turn fuels further expansion, and so on, and so on. Land. That's where the money is.
All right, I hope with these few points I've convinced and not confused you that Nigeria's asset values can really get us a lot more money. But congrats on the Eurobond raise.
Well, thank you very much, Rotus. I would have loved to comment on Real Estate Land Use Act and all of that, but we seem to have run out of time.